Welcome to day 12 of the Fatman build. So last time, let's chuck that away because I'm using it as reference now. So last time I got these painted up to the initial green, and I did this up to basic weathering. It's not that fine, but it's definitely being done. So today we're doing the big bits. Now we're going to have to do it one side at a time, then do the two mini nukes, then hopefully one side will be dry and we can start up on the other. But apart from that, I see a lot of painting in the future. Basically, this whole thing, in the original, almost the whole thing, apart from this, which is yellow, the whole thing is steel. So this is going to be a lot of painting the same colour again and again and again, which is fine. That's something you get used to while prop painting. So let's get going. Oof, that one is slightly heavier. Little bits of residue there. Now that will look like a lot of paint, but with the sheer amount of, well, prop that I have to paint, it won't be enough. Now of course this whole thing is getting a silver undercoating, excluding that and this. Those are both wood, so they're getting undercoated as wood. All the rest of it is metal, and I can go absolutely ham. But of course, this thing is going to need two coats, one on each side, as you'd expect. Now what you'll notice is I haven't increased the illumination on the camera like I usually do. That's because this whole thing is going to be silver. Like in the whole prop will be silver, and when you put that amount of silver on a screen, it will completely blow out the white balance. Actually, no, not the white balance, the brightness. So if I manually set it and enforce it to one brightness, it'll overload and look awful, as we found last time. So in this case, it's better to just get the thing as whole and do it like this. Yeah. But this room is going to smell of whatever the solvent is in this paint by the end of this. And of course, it's going to get more than one coat. I mean, that pipe looks so strong until you do that with it, and it just bends. It's just like a foam dowel. I may be going a bit overzealous on getting this entire pipe straight away, but I just want to, so it's fine. I mean, realistically, I have to get the whole thing regardless, and I'm going for this side first, so... And of course, don't forget, cover the whole thing. And ultimately, when it comes to painting like this, I can just get distracted and go off, paint a section, and just not really be worried about it. Because, I mean, the whole thing has to be done, so... It doesn't matter if I just go, ooh, I'm just going to do this bit over here. Okay, be more careful with the water, because I don't want to lose that. Now, of course, most people would fill things in properly here, so like the little gaps I'm leaving would be filled in. I'm not saying they're wrong, I'm just saying I can't be bothered doing that. Because in the end, it doesn't really matter that much for me. From my perspective, it doesn't matter that much. I'm building for fun. And of course, I mean, because this is cosplay, the props, despite the fact that I run a prop making channel, so you've got to accept the fact that it's going to be the main thing of your content. Most people don't consider the prop to be the big hero of the photo. It's usually the cosplayer who does that. So you have to put a lot of effort into the costume. Which means when they come look at this thing, it's just going to be like, ooh, that's a really cool prop. But, you know, there's a person over there and they will go for the person. And of course, I think it's the little imperfections that make the prop really look good. You know, over the alternative, which is like, oh, yes. Also, yeah, if you just want perfect, go 3D print the game file. I mean, I am aware that 3D printing isn't easy. But, yeah. This isn't really that easy either. Also, if people are going to say I don't like 3D printing, you're wrong. It's a different, what is a... I'm trying to think of what is a different example of. It's a different specialization of crafting. Because 3D printing is not easy. I mean, making one of those things run properly, I know 3D printers, and it's just like, oh yeah, the whole thing just like constantly on the verge of falling apart, and we're just managing it, but we managed to get good prints. Sort of like the wizards who can make Microsoft Word work. You mean you moved something in a document and it didn't destroy every document you've ever made just because it felt like it? Wow. Pretty much whenever I hear about 3D printing, it's always that type of thing. Oops, my finger covered again. I grabbed it too far back. Oh, sorry, that was on the microphone. Yeah, give you an impression of how far the microphone is. That's how far it is to a hit. Now I know there is an ideal distance you are supposed to set your microphone up away. Haha. Mine's literally standing on a vertical stand in front of me. Because it's actually good enough to pick me up across the room, so I'm not that bothered. You know, to a point like this, I'm really glad this isn't metal. This thing would be so heavy. Some unknown component, which paints it silver. you know, all the stages I had to do on the little bits, like go over it all twice and make sure it's all coated properly. I literally have to do that for this entire thing. Okay, maybe this is going to take a bit longer than I thought. Okay, so with that far in, we can just let it rest on that entire side because it doesn't matter. So if we just do that. So, one of the things about doing cosplays and big craft projects is the point of regret. It's not discussed very often because most of us like to pretend it doesn't happen, but there is a point in any large build, and I mean, this one is just under the size where it'll happen, where you get into it and it's just like, oh, what have I let myself in for? It's the point where you realise just the absolute scale and enormity of the job that you've got ahead of you. In a lot of cases, this is where people quit. But if you can hold the point off long enough, you'll actually be like over halfway, and well, I've had it on projects and I just get there and I'm just like, I'm never going to finish this. This is so much work. It's like I'm bringing it up now because I can feel it a little just with the sheer amount of paint that I have to put on this thing. And yeah, I know, I could spray paint, it would take a third of the time, and I could just damage the environment as much as physically possible. I mean, when I started, I didn't even know you could use these paints, and like, I was using aerosol paints for everything. Those things are atrocious. I mean, I had to build a spray booth specifically to deal with this. They were so bad. But then over time, I worked out you don't need like aerosol cans, and you can just use like regular paints. I know it sounds obvious, but I mean, I figured you'd need like specialized paint for this kind of thing. Wasn't the can of water. I mean, I definitely thought like, well, I'm gonna need like proper industrial paint, like car paint, stuff like that. literally making no sense now, don't worry. I sort of walked off in my own direction for that one. So, okay, so back to our stone pad. I mean, I've encountered it on several projects that I've done, just the point where it's just, oh, this is too much, I can't do it. I can't do as good as the other people, and, you know. It's like, just look at the other people out there, and it's just like, I'm never going to be able to match that. They're so good. You know, part one, you shouldn't like judge yourself by other people's work, because there's always going to be someone better. Like, no matter who you are. No matter who you are, there's always someone better. So it's like, you could be the best in the world at this, and it would just be like, yeah. But this other person does this one thing better than me, and because of that, I'm no good. And I mean, it is best not to abandon projects when you feel like that, because it is absolute nonsense. I mean, heck, the usual suspects for it, though, is stuff like power armour, because this prop is big, but it's like, what? This is hour, like, 23 this stream should end on. And I'm doing painting at this point, so it's like a 25-hour job. 25, 26 hours? It's not even a big one. Also, when looking at other people's work, it's actually quite therapeutic for me, at least, to look at how well they'd be doing and how good it'd look if they didn't have all the little greeblies and stuff added on, because it makes it look so much better. And just looking at it, you can learn, like, if I add like this simple little thing, it'll just make it look so much better. I mean, look how wonky that front blade is. It's because I'm pushing it down, but it's because I keep pushing against it with the brush. So yeah, I can tell you exactly why most of the faults are happening, but I also don't care. They happen. I can literally come back, fix 90% of these later. Back out there. You know, if I had made this whole thing out of sheet steel, it would definitely have saved work on this bit. Okay, so next up, I have to get the inside. And you get to see the big point of regrets where I should have bent all of this outwards, or at least this bit, and then punched the other ones through the other way, because then I wouldn't have needed to add that bit on the end, which just makes it look tacky now. But yeah, when people say it is like the little things that make all the difference, I mean, just the bolts and stuff under there. It is such a huge change between before and after. What I can tell you is the person who's on the production line when this came out got sacked. They were bad. And there's bad at your job, and then there's whoever did this. Technically, neither of us could even have been a Chinese spy. It's that bad. Okay, so as you can see, it's coming together, but I like how much enthusiasm it has. It thinks it's going to survive this. It's like, I've got enough, I'll survive. It's like, you have no idea what's coming. It is a communist making it. to scratch my eye with a finger that doesn't have paint all over it. A much more nefarious and difficult, sorry, not nefarious, difficult task than I thought possible. Okay, I might have to change that out for a different brush because it's not going into the holes properly and spreading. So I have a feeling that end's dry already. I will say, brushing over this many holes is weird because it keeps flicking little bits of paint onto me. And it's working. Just go around like that, go around like that, and like that. Around there, and around in there. Make sure to get down in the gap. And of course we've got a little bit more up here, and in that one, and in that one. I am of course later going to have to go over all of this again, make sure I've actually got everything. Look. Antivirus, this computer is not inactive. Please, for the love of God, don't run. Please have a look at the CPU usage and determine whether or not this PC is in use. I mean, for the PC that I use for my game streams, I can literally run like 5 antivirus scans at once and it would not even notice. But this one is built on a very old PC and I will start dropping frames if it starts running. And I would prefer it didn't mess up my stream, thank you very much. I'm trying my best here. Yeah, this paint does a very good job at looking chrome, which I'm glad, because that's what I want it to do. Okay. And don't forget, once you've put on the details, you also have to paint them all back on at the end as well. Because, you know, that little hinge ain't going to look like a hinge until it's painted. Don't worry if the first coat looks a little patchy. Now, let's get along the bottom here, down to the front. Now, technically, at no point should it rest on any of this, so... I mean, that is not going to be good enough. I mean, look, it's a cosplay prop. It's designed to look the part, not be the part. So you have big bits of steel designed to look like big bits of steel. They're usually so soft they will fall apart at like the first bit of scrutiny. Let's get some blood back in that hand. I've been holding it above my heart for like 10 minutes. 40 minutes. Also, if I accidentally paint some parts silver on this side, because this is the bit I'm not doing right now, if I accidentally paint some parts silver on here, I don't care. really doesn't make much of a difference. But yeah, anything on the bottom I'm getting now, because at the moment I'm doing this side and the bottom, and the bits at the top that I can safely do. Oops. I mean, that bit's going to end up being wood, and having shiny wood, sort of not wood, is it? Let's put it this way, I know how to put the shine in, I know how to take the shine out. Whoops. If you're keeping track, yes, that trigger guard is massive. Right. Now back to the rest of it. Now, of course, the bit that's under my thumb, I'm getting last, because I don't want to get paint all over me for obvious reasons. I hope they're obvious. Try doing that with a big surface area brush. Just make sure to get the other side of this. Paint up there. And paint down here. Now, to be honest, by the time that I've done with this bottom section, the front will probably, the bit where I started will probably be dry enough that I can just paint the other side. But we're not in any rush. Basically, I see this being about a 30-hour project in all, so... And considering the fact that this is now hour 23 and 24. Okay, so that's 50 minutes. Let's have a drink. Let's get this bottle. All I know about this bottle is it must be some variety propellant because the amount of flammable substance warnings over it. Now you'll notice when I'm going down the back, I am trying not to get the supports that aren't supposed to be there. I'm sort of hoping that in the end it'll have an effect of just blending them into the background so that you'll be able to see the bits that are meant to be there, but the bits that are adding support that aren't will just sort of be ignored. At least by the eye of the person looking at it, because that's what happens. Now, of course, this looks like a lot of chrome, and it is. It's the future. Everything's chrome. And as you can see, everything's chrome in the future. Now of course the base coat chrome is only going on these bits, so... Oh, you can see where I've dragged it on surfaces and I shouldn't have. Okay, so we've got to let that dry. So let's push it that way a little bit, just so it's in shot, but it's not in the way. Let's get some blood going to my hands again, because, you know, holding them like this for several hours doesn't do any good. Of course, it's not enough to cut off circulation, but it certainly is enough to be annoying. Yes, that's the wording I'm going to put to this. So I've now got these two to paint. Now first layer is going to be green again. Just going to get, you know, over the bottom bits, like down here. And of course it drops the brightness of the olive that is already on there. Because shockingly, this colour is actually olive. It's just doesn't have enough yellow in it to be the military colour, which is olive drab. Which, if you don't mind making the joke, is too drab for me. Feel free to boo me for that one, I don't care. Ugh. Okay, so that's one layer done, or one little bit. Fortunately now I have a properly dry section to hold on to, so I can just turn it like this. It's much easier, but you can see it's getting darker. Now this time I'm not going on to this section or this section because they are painted red and yellow respectively. And that is the colour they are getting painted. Of course, I'm going to give it some time to let this green dry before, because this is a very thin coat of green. But this time around I have to be careful to get most of it instead of just the little bit I got last time because I wasn't really focusing. Because I don't want to have to come back and do all this again. I'm so having a bad feeling that that should be silver. No, they were green. Huh. Oh well. So we're going to drop that one off over here, let it dry for a bit, and then do this one. Let's give it a nice coating. Let's get a little tiny bit more because we are going to run out. Now, of course, with the rust on the previous bits, or at least on the one bit that I've rust affected, which is that one so far, you can see the fact, and if you were here last time, you can also tell from the fact that you watched me paint it, that the entire thing is just, all the rust effect on it is just one colour. Now that's not the correct way to do rust, because if you've ever seen rust, because if you've ever seen rust, it's never just one colour. You'll get like the main rust section, but then you'll get, because rust only happens when metal gets wet, where the water's been running away with it, it'll be really thin. Which means that it'll be a much lighter colour. Now this may seem like a small distinction, because it really is, but when you actually build things, or when you actually look at it, if it's missing that, it stands out, but you're never really sure why. It's like there's something wrong with it. So I'm going to need to add that. And for those who wonder what difference second coat paint makes, you can clearly see the difference in the bits I've done and the bits I haven't. So that should be it for green now. I hope it is, because that is going in the pot. But now that that's done, I mean, that tank's almost done. That was the last bit. So let's get back to silver. But this is definitely dry enough that I can flip it and do this. Let's put that back over there. And we can start off on this side. And get paint all over me this time, because now when you're seeing this, the colours which I choose and the orders in which I'm choosing may seem completely random, but that's because I'm picking the bits I want to do first. It's like I'm literally just picking the bit I'm most excited about and going for that. That's how I've always worked when I'm picking, so. Hey. Yeah, well, it's live, but as long as you don't mind any... Okay, there's no one here, but as long as you don't mind being heard, it's okay. What's up?
Well, I don't want to come in because you haven't got a...
Yeah, fair point. It's a good reason to stay in the other room.
I can stay here.
I tend not to wear one while recording because there doesn't tend to be someone in the room with me when I'm recording.
Oh, I only came to pick this up.
Okay.
You alright?
Yeah, you're right. I'm assuming you've had a nice day. I considered that, and then I remembered how much of a mess the garden is, and I was just like, nope. I'll let the other people deal with that.
I just got accosted by 2 little kitty cats on the way in.
You didn't let them in?
No.
Okay, good. I don't particularly want to spend the night sneezing.
They were hiding under my car when I saw them.
Okay, yeah. Make sure when you go out, like make sure they're not in your car anymore.
I will.
Okay, good. I don't want them to get hurt, just not near me.
As soon as I shut the door, they ran up.
Oh.
Right, so I shall leave you to it then. I shall see you tomorrow.
Probably around like midnight-ish, you knowing you.
No, around about 9, half past, something like that.
Okay.
Right?
Well, tomorrow's upload day, so you know the you know what's going to be happening with the internet.
Well, I won't be using it as such.
I know, I specifically put it on a day where you shouldn't be using it a lot, but
I'll just be sleeping over, that's all.
okay.
Right, see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
I'm going to go watch a film. We bought Contagion today and I've never seen it.
You're going to watch a film about a deadly virus during the plague.
That's right.
Well, feel free to shout the stupidity at how everyone actually acted to it instead of what they really would do, because we now know what they'd really do.
Oh, you've seen it, have you?
No, but usually in those types of films, they make out like the government will actually do something instead of just going spread it, spread it, spread it, which, as we all know, really happened.
Right, see you tomorrow.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Right, love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Enjoy the film. Bye. We're going along. We're making some progress. So yeah, like well, props come along. We'll be fine. And then the sheer amount of silver on this. It's like... This type of thing is the reason why I keep so much silver paint on hand. Because eventually I will just make something from Fallout and I'll need all the silver paint. Also, okay, back to talking about the community because, heck, I've got little else to do. You know, back when I started, like when I made my first sets of armour, I actually had someone comment on my paint job because basically I put the picture out there and like one of the first comments I got was like yeah, that's a load of crap, get that stupid paint off there, it's the wrong colour, you need to do that. I'm just like, well, I can tell that person's never made a prop in their life. In this full walking suit T-51 power armour, you're going to shout at me about the fact that it's not olive drab, it is olive? In fact, it is the right colour. Shh. The most amusing thing is it is actually the right colour that it's supposed to be. It's because I did the silver undercoat, which makes it look really shiny, and it always comes out in photos looking like it's a lot lighter than it is. But also, it doesn't matter. Like, so not only was it the right colour, but also, like, why would you go out of your way to shout at someone about colour scheming? It's just so pointless. Excuse me, sir, I believe you'll find that there's the wrong shade of puce. Now, if you'll change it out... We'll change it out to this specific colour that's only available for this one, because I'm just like... But yeah, if you're doing a project and you're getting stuff like that thrown at you, just ignore them. They are not worth the time of day. also, like, social media is an absolute pit of toxicity anyway. If you have made something and you want to show it off, honestly, just go. It's fine. At the actual events, you'll very rarely get people walking up to you who are as mean and horrible as they are online. Because why would you? I mean, I've had some of them. And if you could find that hole's the wrong size, was actually one of them, and I'm just like, to be fair, that was said to my friend, but it was about a prop I made, and I was just like, oh yeah, well, let's see you make one then. Also, it's one of the things I dislike about conventions is the, like, well, we're going to have a competition to see who has the best costume. And it's just like, I mean, I enjoy us all being able to show off our costumes and stuff like that and the stuff we've made. But you're actively making it a competition between us, and it's... Ultimately, we're a community. We should be friends, not like at each other's throats over, oh, well, mine's better. And of course, as I've said many times before, if you just want to go to a shop and buy a costume, go to a shop, buy a costume. It's fine. Do you not have 30 hours to make a single prop to go with your costume? Do you think that... Sorry, let me do that again. I've got to actually think of the words before I actually do these things. Like, do you not have 30, 40 hours to make a single prop to go with your costume? Do you not know how to sew, and particularly know how to make armour, and know how to blacksmith, and there's a long list of skills involved here. But do you not know how to be an entire special effects workshop, like on your own, working out of your garage? Then try buying a cosplay. Buying cosplays, it's not a sign of laziness. And seriously, I have actually bought costumes myself. I have genuinely gone into a fancy dress store, bought costumes, and been like, yep, that's pretty much about where I was expecting. It's like, yes, they're not going to be 100% screen accurate. Yes, they're not going to be the best materials. Yes, they are going to be cheaply made. You know what? everyone I've bought's been decent quality, decently made. It's like, yes, it's not the maximum quality artisan work that you would expect off of an artisan making it themselves. But also it costs like £30, so okay. So enough that, it's like 30 of the most expensive ones I've had. And as we've already had a discussion of cost on this kind of thing, when you're paying £30 for a fully made thing, I mean, how much do people think these things cost to make? It's like, I hear regularly about people going up to crafters like me and going like, well, I'll pay you £30 to make one of these. And I'm just like, no. Because, as I've said while I've been making this, I've been on this now for 23 hours, right? Now, admittedly, worldwide, the minimum wage is different, so... But here it is £30 an hour. Actually, no, sorry, it's not £30. Bloody hell. Love them. No, I found prices will go up accordingly because they like to rip people off, but basically £10, around £10 an hour is the minimum wage. And if this is spent 30 hours to make, you know, look, that's 300 just for the time spent on it. And then you can ask yourself, well, how come I can buy a prop of it for like a tenner then? Well, that's the question, isn't it? Either the full production of it takes 1 hour, which you're dealing with basically it's not cast so much, but it'll just be like stamped out plastic, at which point they'll have produced thousands of them one after the other. So yeah, it'll be cheap because it takes about a minute to get one out. And they'll have tooled up to do like 10,000 of them, so it scales down in price. But for something that's actually like a one-off handcrafted, it's going to be so much most people wouldn't pay for it. It's like, I've never tried to sell a set of power armour, but from the people I have seen try, it's just, they never go. Because those things are about 150 hour builds, which is why you run into the you run out of time thing. So you just feel you can't finish it because there's such a load of work ahead of you. Well, as you can imagine, when you're 100 hours into 150 hour builds, and it, like, these things don't look like they're supposed to until like the last 10 minutes, and then it starts to look good. But if you're like, 130 hours into a build, you've spent that much time and you've still just have random parts all over the table, nothing's stuck together properly, there's no paint, you do end up thinking that. But basically a full set of power armour ends up like, oh, well, for me to produce this for a job would be about 100 odd quid, and 1,000 odd just for labour. And then after that it goes on. It's just like, so basically if you're paid fairly it would be about £1,000 just for labour. Once you put the materials on top it ends up being in the region of 2,000 to 3,000. And then of course you've got whatever they want to put on top. I believe I saw a conversation the other day where someone said they managed to spend 3,000 just on foam for an order, and I was just like, how? It's like, how? I know how much this stuff costs. Like, what are you building that's taking up that much? Because, like, the amount that I use over like 6-7 months of running a crafting channel only comes up to £100. Come on. How did you spend 3,000? Also, I'm quite sure the material cost of just making this thing alone ends up in the hundreds. Actually, no, sorry. It costs about 5 of one of these things of paint, so it's 5. All the foaming's probably about 20, 30. So, I'm going to work out how much this thing would have cost. So it's about 30. Technically, some of the bits of foam I used weren't necessary, so I can take them out. I mean, the Nerf football, well, okay, the whistling bomb, which is specifically what it's called, by the way. The thing I made this out of is specifically named a whistling bomb. Which means I do have some receipts which literally say bomb. That got me on a few watch lists. I'm sorry, she's buying bombs. What? Why? Hello. Oh, one way or the other for waving. So that bit's dry-ish. Okay, that bit's ready to dry-ish. If I got everything else, it does look like it. As you can see by this oversized mass of chrome in front of me, it is coming along. So let's put that there, let it dry, and we can alternate back to the small projectiles. Right, so I need to pick another small brush. Well, another 2 small brushes, so those 2 will do. Let's drop in some yellow and red. Some yellow. Okay, please let that be enough. We are running shockingly low on red. Okay, so let's get this one done first with the red, so we know that it's done. It's okay. It gives the table character. Every mistake, every little mess gives your table a story. I'm good. How are you doing? It's important that your table has a story to it. If it doesn't, it's just an inanimate table. Because I've asked Ipfit to think of my tables. It's Buddy who's been on all my journeys with me. All my projects, all the times I've failed, all the times I've succeeded. Sort of close to a pet, really. Sorry, table. So we got some red. Let's just get this side as well. Now, of course, I'm going to have to do a second coat on this, just to make sure I've got it all. But the second coat will be later. As per usual, just be glad there's not a large surface area you need to do when you're running out of paint. paint my way down. Just nice relaxing little bit of paint. Wow, it's already been 1 hour 40. 1 hour 40. So let's okay, so that's all of the red on that one. Just go through, get all the red on this one. Well, it's not that bad. I mean, it'll get a second coat, but now, of course, I'm going to have to be far more careful with the silver on the Fatman than I'm going to have to on this because, well, ultimately, these nukes, the silver is going to be painted over so heavily that you wouldn't really know it was there half the time. Whereas the final end of that is going to end up around that colour. And the problem is when I've got this much wet paint on my hand and things aren't supposed to be that colour in the hand, it starts to become a problem. Also, I think I need some more red paint. Now, of course, when it comes to doing this, you have to be relatively careful, because, I mean, you've got to get all the bottoms right. Now again, I am leaving horrible brush strokes in this. I mean, that camera won't pick them up, but like on photographs you'll be able to see it for definite. And that's fine. Because it's getting a second coat, and when I do the second coat I'm going to go in the opposite direction, and that should cancel out most of the brush strokes. Of course, on enclosed stuff like this it's a lot more difficult to do the other direction, because I always do the easy one first. Just come around like that, a little bit of paint by there. Like a little bit on the actual body. I'm going to need to correct that later as well, so I'll have to come back with the green. I mean, it's not like these are things anyone's going to notice. I mean, you can see it there, you've got that little bit of red overbleed in that position. It's just visible a slight bit. Okay, so we put that there. And next up, we need to do the bit at the front where the hazard stripe goes. Now, of course, when it comes to the hazard stripe, it is going to take more than one coat of this, because white paint is really weak color-wise. Okay, maybe it's just like the yellow that I have that's really weak, but it's like this stuff just goes on as a wash. It's barely even paint. I mean, as you saw with the red, do you know, this tub, the tub it's in, is going to be stained red forever. I'm serious, like that tub is never going to stop being red. was just looking at how I did it last time, because you know, it's always worth looking back at your old ones to see just how you achieved it. I have a feeling there is white paint in my future to make this yellow work. But it's starting. And plus, if that doesn't work, I don't really care that much. Oh. Right. Now, let's put those back over there. Let's put those down. And let's flip this thing over and get back to painting the silver, because we have so much silver. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, now I've just got to find all the bits that just aren't done right. And just give them a quick once over. Just anywhere that just doesn't look right, looks like it's been rubbed off, or whatever else. The second coat is always a make it look like the thing. It's like where you made mistakes, where it didn't go on thick enough, X, Y, Z, all those little things. Just go through a little bit more, just so it's complete coverage. Realistically, I'm actually liking some of the effects the paint not being on properly is causing. Because it just makes it look like old and mottled, and I mean, it's supposed to look old and mottled. So I think so ultimately the problem becomes moving the thing. So yeah, I think that's pretty much done with that bit, or that side. Okay, no, didn't touch anything, we're okay. I did, on the other hand, miss that when I was over there. Well, someone's happy. Right. To be fair, I'm quite happy to get to this point too. It's been a while. It was surprising how much difference some paint makes on it though. Right. So yeah, we're going to have to undercoat that with white because it is not enough. It's okay. I'm not that worried if my white gets mixed with the thing a bit. I mean, the reds are going on fine, but that should be enough because there's not much of this going on. It's unfortunate, but once you've mixed it like that to create a colour, you can't really take it back. So oh, you've not made a white that is see-through, come on. Well, it looks a lot better when it's not under the light, so when it's not on camera. I don't know, the camera doesn't pick this stuff up very well. I mean, it's getting better. I think I've got like another 2 layers of yellow and that'll probably be done. So we now we're coming into the problem where I've like painted it as far as I can. Ugh. How much further can I actually go? Because that's drying, that's drying, that's drying. Sorry, those 2 are drying. That's dry, but there's not another colour to go on it today. So I guess if I just do red again. Also, this red is absolutely horrible. It's like, I may sound like I'm being hyperbolic doing that, but this red pretty much stains anything it touches. My hand will probably still be red, like on the next stream. Yes, I'm definitely going to be painting the hazard stripes. The colours do look a lot stronger than they did on the old one on this one. That's because the old one has been weathered. When I was making the old one, I posted all the pictures online of it while I was making it. And even I'm slightly surprised by just how much of an effect the weathering had on it. It depends how like old and weathered I want it to be. because right, the stages left are I've got to make that look like one solid colour, which takes a lot of time, and I've got to do a few layers for that. Then I have to add layers of dirt, which is, you could see there, which is just lines of brown going around. Then there's an entire wash over the top of dark brown on that. The hazard stripes have to be done. I have to paint the screws on, do the scratching damage to make it look older, do the rust on there, because there's loads of rust around it, the scratches on that. I've got to redo that rust better as well. But there is a very large amount of work left on this, surprisingly. Yeah, the weathering and detailing really does make a lot of difference at the end, but it's one of the last stages you do. Basically, I make them look like they're in factory condition, then wreck them. But now the one that I've got there looks, I went overboard with the weathering, and it looks like it's lived in a swamp for several decades. Whereas I want the one on the mini nuke to look like it's, you know, been in decent storage for 200 years. So it's still going to be weathered, aged and rusted, but it's not going to look like absolute trash. Little one, which we got. That one will do. Okay, we are done with big for today, so where's my pot? There. So let's look up the references, because we always need to do that. What do we have? Those little triangles really difficult to see. Okay, so looking for the references, I can barely even tell where it is, but I think it's actually on the bottom. So we got one of them, and it doesn't matter on this one at all where it goes. So. Okay, there you go. And of course, I mean, I'm in one of those moods, so none of this is, none of the yellows are coming up right. They're just too, like dark, and I don't like it. I don't like it. It doesn't look right. Now, I know usually I'm on the side of like screw accuracy, but in this case. Let's literally give it a glowing back. Let's get the best chance it has at looking bright. Okay, so that's now got a slight undercoat of silver. And because of this decision, none of that silver is ever going back in the pot. But it's okay. There's a bit left, but not that much. Okay, so it's one coat. Slightly better. A little more. Okay. Oop. Now it's actually popping properly. Now, of course, I can always go across and correct little bits later, but just got a little arrow on it, and we've got that. So give this a quick once over. And of course none of this yellow is going back in either because that's also been mixed, so I mean it'll be fine. There might be, but on the model for the Fatman of the Fatman, for the model on the Fatman, it doesn't appear, but if there might be one on the thing on its own, because they appear to use two different models for it. But there's definitely a flammable warning on this once it's fully painted, but that is quite some time away now. Down to the bottom. Boof. A little bit in there. Every bit of paint I save is, well, pretty good, really. Okay, and here's my black. Tiny little bit. Am I rushing? Yes. I should have finished like 20 minutes ago. So we're now done with that silver as well. So I can join both thing. Yellow we're officially done with. And red. So that's this little bit of black for the last bit. And we're done. It's coming along. Whoops. Messed that up. Oh well. Crap happens. Sound is way too wide. See, I mean, they're terribly spaced, but just getting there. Oh well, one last one, and I'm stopping for the night soon. Turns out, don't mess with black paint. This stuff, doesn't matter what colour you've got under it, it'll overwrite it. slightly better spacing than on the other one, but and for some reason I forgot to paint this yellow triangle. Whoops. That. Whoops, that's... Okay, so this one's definitely the one the spy made. But it's still good. And that's the last bit. And with that, I will be finishing for the day because I've made enough of a mess. I'm going to have to tidy up for hours after this. So, thanks for coming. I'm hoping you've enjoyed my work here. Yeah. So do some arranging, move some stuff around. Okay, let's lift you up. Now we've got that. Where is the bottom? There it is. I mean, looks about right. Just got a load more work to do, but and well, I hope to see you next time. Okay. Bye.